All right, ready for another deep dive. Today, it's all about Red, Taylor Swift's 2012 album. It was a big turning point in her career.
Yeah, Red is fascinating.
You guys send in so much cool stuff, biographical info, stories from documentaries, books, all sorts of things.
Trying to figure out how this album, how
And
Red...
how it kind of set her on this path to reinventing herself.
Right, reinventing herself, exactly.
And with her, like, really pouring her heart out.
Yeah.
If I actually made her music even stronger.
Yeah, does vulnerability equal stronger art? I mean, you see how Red is this bridge between her country roots and this, like, bolder, poppier sound.
Yeah.
It's like she's walking this musical tightrope between these two genres.
Totally. And you know what's crazy? Even as a little kid, she was drawn to storytelling through music. I mean, we all have those memories of singing Disney songs as kids. But with Taylor, there's this story about her singing The Lion King at 3 years old, to anyone who'd listen, on the beach.
Wow, 3 years old. Like, she was born to be on stage. And maybe it's genetic, you know? Her grandmother was a professional opera singer and a TV host in Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow.
So maybe that love of performing runs in the family.
Interesting. And, you know, she definitely had that drive from a young age. Like, remember her handing out those demo CDs in Nashville? 11 years old?
That's crazy.
That kind of hustle shows she was serious about her music.
Definitely. And reinvention often starts with this, like, clear vision, you know, almost stubborn vision. She had that back then.
Yeah.
But let's talk about her songwriting. Taylor's talked about using it as a form of therapy, a way to deal with all those, like, tough teenage emotions, which we've all gone through.
Right, exactly. She's really open about how she channeled feelings of loneliness and rejection, especially from school. You know, that classic story of not fitting in
Yeah.
into her music and those early songs, especially Teardrops on My Guitar, where she even used real names and real situations. Talk about raw emotions.
Totally. And that's why her music connects with so many people, especially like young girls who are going through the same things. It's like she's giving a voice to all these feelings that they might be struggling with.
Sure.
Makes you think, does knowing the story behind a song change how you connect with it?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Does it make it a deeper experience?
For sure. It adds another dimension, right?
Yeah.
But with Red, things start shifting towards pop. It's like sonically, it's a bridge to this whole new sound.
It is. It is. I mean, think about that first single, We Are Never, Ever Getting Back Together.
Yeah.
It's catchy. It's defiant. And it's so different from that earlier country sound.
It's like she's announcing a new Taylor.
Exactly.
Totally a new Taylor. And get this, for this album, she worked with Max Martin and Shellback. They're Swedish pop producers. You know, the guys behind huge hits for Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys.
Oh, wow.
Huge names.
That's a bold move. It shows she was willing to experiment, step outside of her comfort zone, embrace influences from different genres. I mean, that's a key part of reinventing yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like she's saying, I'm not afraid to evolve, you know. And, you know, Red has all these big pop anthems. But I think the heart of it is still in that vulnerability. Like tracks like All Too Well, a total fan favorite,
Yeah.
just bear all these raw emotions of heartbreak.
What gets me about All Too Well is how specific the lyrics are. The scarf, the autumn imagery. It's like these details give listeners space to put their own experiences onto the song. It gets super personal.
It really does. Even just those few lines like, and you call me up again just to break me like a promise.
Yeah.
So casually cruel in the name of being honest. Oof, that's heavy stuff.
Chills, serious chills. And this brings us back to our question. Does vulnerability make art stronger? I think Red makes a pretty good case for yes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But, you know, reinvention, it's not always smooth sailing. Like, Red got mixed reviews at first. Some critics didn't like that she was moving away from country.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, whenever an artist tries something new,
Right.
there's always pushback.
Always. But let's look at the big picture. Red was a huge commercial success. It topped charts globally, brought in tons of new fans.
Absolutely.
It was a risk that paid off big time.
Yeah, huge. And it kind of set the stage for that full-on pop era.
Yeah.
With 1989, which we all know was this global phenomenon.
Yeah.
Red was like this crucial bridge leading her to an even bigger audience.
A much bigger audience and a more diverse audience, too.
Definitely.
It shows the potential for growth when you're willing to take a risk, you know?
Yeah.
But it also highlights how reinvention always has these risks and rewards.
For sure.
It's a good lesson for any artist, or anyone really, who wants to push boundaries and try something new.
I love that.
You know, it's interesting how Red captures that feeling of being on the edge of something new. But even before, Red Taylor was already pushing boundaries, like with Speak Now.
Oh yeah, good point.
She wrote every song on that album herself.
That's right. Speak Now was such a statement. Like, I'm a songwriter, hear me roar.
Exactly.
And it was huge. Debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. Really cemented her place in the industry.
No doubt about it. It shut down any questions about her songwriting, showed how much she'd grown, creating these narratives that people connected with on this deep emotional level.
And around that time, she started directing her music videos, too, or co-directing and getting really involved creatively. It's like another way of taking ownership of her art.
Absolutely. She wasn't just a singer anymore. She was becoming a visual storyteller, shaping the whole narrative around her music.
Yeah, I love that.
It's like she's creating these worlds for us to step into.
With each album, it's true.
With each album.
Okay, but back to Red for a sec. Remember those crazy stage setups on tour? Like those clear cubicles, she'd get launched onto the stage.
Oh, yeah, those are awesome.
So cool.
Like she was always innovating, finding new ways to bring the songs to life.
Totally.
And create this immersive experience for her fans.
For sure. And that surprise factor keeps things so exciting. But Red wasn't just about the music, Taylor was in her early 20s. And the album really reflects that. That intense growth, figuring out love, heartbreak, fame.
It was all there.
All those themes are woven throughout.
And that's what makes it so relatable, right? Like she's letting us read her diary, sharing those raw emotions we've all felt. The joy, the pain, the confusion.
All of it.
All of it. Figuring it all out. She puts it all out there.
Like she's saying, hey, it's okay to feel these things. We're all in this together.
Exactly.
And that vulnerability makes Red so powerful. It's like a time capsule of that moment in her life. But it also speaks to this universal human experience.
It does. It really does. It reminds us that the ups and downs, the heartbreak, it's all part of what makes us who we are. And seeing someone like Taylor embrace that and channel it into her art.
It's inspiring.
It's super inspiring. It gives us permission to do the same, to find meaning, even beauty in the messy parts of life.
Absolutely. And this brings us back to our question. Does vulnerability make art stronger? I think Red shows us that it definitely can.
Agreed.
By being open and honest about her experiences.
Yeah.
Taylor created this work that resonates with millions.
Totally. Vulnerability creates connection. And when we feel connected to an artist, their work becomes so much more powerful.
It's like finding a piece of yourself in their art.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty amazing feeling. But let's shift gears for a sec. Remember when Taylor pulled all her music from Spotify? That was a bold move. A lot of people were confused.
That was huge, not just for Taylor, but for the whole music industry. It started this whole debate about artists' rights and getting paid fairly in the streaming era.
Yeah, it was 2014. Streaming was still pretty new.
Exactly.
And there were a lot of questions about how artists were getting paid. Taylor felt strongly that music has value, that artists deserve to be compensated fairly.
Right.
It was like she was saying, we're not just going to accept these unfair practices anymore.
Totally. She used her platform to advocate for change, to challenge the status quo. It was risky, but it had a positive impact.
It definitely did. It sent a message that artists weren't going to be taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
It made people think about the value of music.
Yeah.
And how we need a more fair system.
A more equitable system, yeah. It also showed her business smarts, and her willingness to stand up for what she believes in, even if it meant going against the grain.
Totally.
And remember, a few years later, when she signed with Universal, she made sure her contract guaranteed she owned her masters.
That was huge. That was a game changer.
It was.
It gave her control over her music.
Yeah.
And made sure she'd benefit from her hard work.
And set a precedent for other artists, showing them they could fight for their rights and win.
It's inspiring. And those re-recorded albums have been so successful.
Yeah, they have.
Topping charts. Introducing her to a new generation of fans.
Exactly.
It shows how resilient she is, and that connection with her fans, they were with her through it all.
They were. It's a reminder that even with big obstacles, artists can find ways to take back their power and connect with their audience in these meaningful ways.
It's amazing to see her navigate the industry like that.
Yeah.
With so much determination.
With grace, yeah.
But let's talk about the music. After Red came 1989. Her full-on pop album, a huge shift from country, basically launched her into superstardom.
1989 was a global phenomenon. Broke records, won awards.
For sure.
Cemented her status as a pop icon. It's hard to believe it's been almost a decade.
It's crazy how time flies. But even though it was pop, You can still hear those country influences. Like she took those roots with her, blended them with these new sounds to create something totally unique.
And unforgettable. That ability to evolve and stay true to her origins, it's a real mark of her artistry.
Yeah.
But 1989 was also a time of intense scrutiny for her. All that media attention, the focus on her relationships.
It's like she couldn't escape the spotlight.
It took a toll.
Every move analyzed and criticized.
That kind of pressure is so hard to deal with, especially when you're in the public eye.
For sure.
It reminds us that fame has a price.
It definitely does. But Taylor found ways to cope. She channeled her experiences into her music.
Right.
Songwriting as therapy, processing those tough emotions.
And that's what makes her music so relatable. It reflects the human experience, the good and bad, the ups and downs we all go through.
Yeah, exactly. She's not afraid to be vulnerable, to share her struggles with the world.
And that's what creates that deep connection with her fans.
Totally.
It's like she's saying, it's okay to not be okay. We're all in this together.
Absolutely.
And that message is so important today. It reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles. But, we should also talk about her impact beyond the music. She's become a role model for young women everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. She's broken barriers, challenged norms, inspired so many people to chase their dreams.
She's a force to be reckoned with.
For sure.
In music and in society as a whole.
Yeah, a true icon.
And her legacy will keep inspiring people for generations to come. But let's go back to Red for a moment. One of the things that makes it so special is its timelessness. It's an album anyone can relate to, no matter when they discovered her music.
It's true.
Red just connects across generations.
It
shows how strong her songwriting is, her ability to create these universal stories that go beyond time and age.
Totally.
It's an album you can listen to again and again and always find something new. It's a classic, and it reminds us that great music has this power to connect us across time and space.
It's beautiful, but let's not forget the risks she took with Red. Experimenting with new sounds, pushing boundaries, challenging expectations.
Yeah.
It could have backfired.
Easily.
But she trusted her vision, her instincts.
That's a lesson for all of us.
It is.
Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith.
And trust that things will work out.
Exactly.
Even if they don't go exactly as planned, you learn and grow from it.
You do.
Red shows the power of embracing the unknown, trusting the journey.
It's a reminder that growth often means stepping outside your comfort zone, taking a chance on yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, trusting the journey. Speaking of which, there's another side to Red we should talk about. Not just the music itself, but Taylor's evolution as an artist, a businesswoman. We touched on it with Spotify, but there's more to the story.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The whole saga of her master recordings, that's a whole other chapter in this Reinvention story.
It is.
In 2019, you had her old label, Big Machine Records. It got sold to Scooter Braun, and that sale included the masters to her first 6 albums.
Wow.
Huge deal.
I mean, for Taylor, it was devastating. It wasn't just recordings. It was pieces of her life. Her heart and soul poured into those albums. To have someone else control them,
Right.
especially someone she felt hadn't always been supportive, it was rough.
It caused this big public battle. Taylor accused Braun of bullying tactics, said how disappointed she was to lose control of her music.
Yeah.
It became a huge debate about artists' rights,
And
power dynamics in the industry.
exactly. It was like David and Goliath,
Yeah.
This incredibly successful artist fighting this powerful industry figure for something that was rightfully hers.
It was.
It really highlighted how messy music ownership can be
It is messy.
and the challenges artists face, just trying to keep control of their own work.
And it resonated with so many other musicians who'd been through similar stuff. Taylor being so outspoken, challenging the system, it made everyone pay attention to these issues of transparency and fairness.
It did. And then she did something incredible. She decided to re-record those first 6 albums, taking back ownership of her music in a way no one had really done before.
It was brilliant.
So smart.
By re-recording, she not only got control back, but she gave her fans a way to directly support her.
Right.
Listening to and buying these versions that she owned.
It's amazing.
It turned a negative situation into this powerful statement.
It really did. A total power move.
And it worked.
And it worked.
It did.
Those re-recordings have been so successful, topping the charts, introducing her to new fans.
Exactly.
It shows her resilience
Yeah.
and that connection with her fan base. They were there for her.
They were right there with her.
It's a reminder that even with huge obstacles, artists can find creative ways to reclaim their power and their art.
I love that.
It's really an amazing example of how Taylor keeps reinventing herself. Not just the music, but how she handles the whole industry.
Yeah. And it comes back to that vulnerability we've been talking about.
Hmm.
It takes a lot of courage to be that vulnerable, to stand up for what you believe in, especially when it feels impossible.
Absolutely. And beyond all the industry stuff, Taylor uses her platform to do good. She's so generous, supports causes, she cares about disaster relief, LGBTQ plus rights.
She puts her money where her mouth is. It reflects her values,
It does.
using her influence to make a real difference.
For sure.
She's donated millions, spoken out against injustice, always using her voice to advocate for change.
She's such a role model, showing that success isn't just about yourself. It's about using your platform to make the world better.
Totally. Inspiring others to contribute, make the world more just. She's a force for good. Her impact goes way beyond music.
It does. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Red, it's obvious this album is more than just songs. It's Taylor's growth as an artist, her resilience, and that incredible bond he has with her fans.
It shows us that reinvention is a process. Growth means taking risks. And real art is about connecting with people on a deep level.
Red still resonates with us. It reminds us that music can make us feel things, start important conversations, inspire change. What are your thoughts on Red? Has Taylor's music had an impact on your life? We'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts online using hashtag #TheDeepDiverRed. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon to explore something new.